energy security through innovation. To me, the topic, the title is quite self-explanatory. How can we not talk about innovation if we are trying to pursue energy security, particularly in the Philippines? So maybe I'll take a step back a bit and introduce ourselves first, introduce our agency. So I'm currently the chair of the Energy Regulatory Commission of the Philippines. I'm not alone in the commission. There are 5 commissioners. Our agency is created by law, by the EPIRA, by the what we call the Energy Power Reform Act of 2001. And we have basically a long list of mandates, but we can summarize it in 4. With the EPIRA that deregulated the certain sectors of the power industry in the Philippines, not all, but certain sectors will go through it. The area of the regulator focuses on promoting market competition. Together with that, we are also mandated to ensure customer choice, because in the deregulated industry, focusing into more competition, then consumers are now allowed to a certain extent to choose their own suppliers. So we need to ensure that the playing field is level so that consumers can have an authentic right to choose, or authentic ground to choose their suppliers, and also protect their interests. While consumers are not able to choose, they are part of what we call the captive market. And in that market, the ERC is mandated to ensure that least cost pricing is made available. And if somebody still doesn't follow the rules in that scheme of competition that we continuously monitor, then we are authorized under the law to penalize any abuse of market power. And what is this playground that we are looking at? What is this arena that we are supervising as the sole regulator in the power industry? This is a 630 billion peso industry currently. And if the plans of the Department of Energy, the 20-year plan of the Department of Energy is realized, we're looking at a 7 trillion peso industry that we will continue to supervise, hopefully, by 2040. That's the target. And we do not want to stand in the way of that target. We want to usher in the realization of these targets for the industry. Currently, we have about 327 employees. That's very precise. And we monitor that on a daily basis. For those of you who were monitoring, for example, the budget hearings in Congress, in the House of Representatives, and in the Senate, this figure may be familiar to you, and you may have noticed, how come they're now only 327? They started out, I think, in the House with 345. We keep losing people by the day to some of the players who are in this panel as well, because we compete with the private sector for the very good, very skilled engineers, accountants, lawyers, economists. And we simply cannot match, as a government agency, we simply cannot match the going rate. But we appeal to the hearts, to the nationalist hearts of Filipinos, Filipino lawyers, accountants, engineers, so that they can join us in the industry. Because we want to, in the agency, because we want to do, we are embarking on a transformation of the agency in the next few, as we started it and we embark on this journey in the next few years. In the meantime, we continue to monitor and issue licenses to currently 227 generation companies operating 590 power plants in the nation, both in what we call the grid, the connected systems, and the off-grid areas. We also regulate one transmission concessionaire. So even if it's just one, they operate more than 22,000 circuit kilometers of transmission lines in the country. We currently have, and this is the exciting part maybe for today, 405 WESM participants. For those of you who don't know yet, the wholesale electricity spot market in Mindanao has already started commercial operations. This number now reflects the updated number of WESM participants. It used to be, I think, 333 participants in WESM. Now because WESM Mindanao is operational, we increase that numbers. All of those participants are trading every 5 minutes every day. So we also monitor 288 intervals per day of trading in the market. We also regulate 141 utilities, some electric cooperatives, some private utilities. And because we have, as I mentioned earlier, deregulated the supply sector, there are 119 retail electricity suppliers who are able to sell directly to what we call contestable customers. So the ERC, on one side, I won't go through it. It might be too legalese for the audience, but there are various powers that the ERC can exercise under the law, under the EPIRA. We have, as I mentioned earlier, certain sectors that are already what we call competitive or deregulated. So that's distinguished from totally not regulated. It's just deregulated. We continue to issue licenses to generators, to suppliers or retail electricity suppliers. There continues to be the regulated sector, the natural monopolies, those that own the wires and operate the wires, the transmission operator and the distribution operator. Of course, we also watch over the consumer interest, as mentioned earlier. We have two types of consumers in the Philippines, the contestable consumers, those that can choose already their suppliers, and the captive customers who still are supplied by their utilities where they are located. So what kind of monitoring, what kind of things, what kind of mandate, or how do we exercise our mandate? It is really a balancing of interests. And if you see the scale before you, it is an unusual scale. It's not just made of two plates, so to speak, maybe three, maybe more in some instances, but generally three interests that we're always trying to balance at the regulator side. And it's the investor interest vis-a-vis the government interest and the consumer interest. And there are areas where these interests may not be aligned. So it's up to the regulator to find that fine balance where this interest can have points of alignment. And I think the topic for today is one clear point of alignment among all these apparently or on first impression competing interests, because it's to the benefit of everyone that we find that path towards achieving energy security. So it's one area where I love to play in because that's where our interests all align. So I won't go through each and everything on the slide, but we can share the slides to the audience if you find it useful. But let me go dive into the topic of energy security. I think Ben wrote an editorial or a piece today on energy security, preparing for this topic, and he identified there are various measures of energy security, what we call the trilemma or the quadrilemma. But maybe in a very simple way, we can measure energy security with the supply, the availability of supply, and the availability of supply, the access, and maybe and affordability as well. But in terms of supply security, in terms of the availability of capacity, we can see in the slide before you that over the last 20 years, there has been a steady increase of capacity. There may be too many numbers to busy a slide, but let me summarize it for you. Over the last 20 years, the total installed capacity in the system has increased by more than 100%. If we focus on renewable energy alone, there are more than 3,400 megawatts of new renewable energy that has come on stream over the last 20 years. But in talking about RE, I always have to follow the megawatts with the megawatt hours because the real story is in the generation and not in capacity. So you can see that over the last 20 years, while in terms of megawatts, RE has increased, in terms of generation, there has been a steady decrease actually of renewable energy share in the power mix in the Philippines. And why is that? The answer is also on the screen. It's my teacher mode that's on, but the answer is already on the screen. It's because the utilization of coal in the system has significantly increased by almost 200% over that same period. In the meantime, in terms of the increase in transmission, in the availability of transmission, so that the electrons can be delivered to where it's needed, there has been only an increase of 7.5% over the last 10 years. Our scenario is less than 10 years because that's when the privatization of the operation of the grid has commenced. And this is related to the topic of energy security as well, because as we increase capacity, we need that capacity to be delivered to where it's needed. So this is also crucial. In terms of zeroing in on renewable energy now, in terms of energy security for diversity of sources, we have about 122 generation companies all over the country. Most of them are located, most of the facilities are located in the main grid. I'd like to call your attention to the lower left quadrant of your screen, where we only have 14 off-grid generation facilities. These are RE generation facilities in the small islands. And maybe if you've been following the news, this has a significant, this explains a lot what's happening in our island communities, where they are mostly supplied by diesel plants. And with fuel prices rising, with the price of diesel and crude oil rising, that is a considerable challenge for our National Power Corporation that mainly supplies electricity to this island. I think almost 90% of the supply to our off-grid areas are coming from diesel plants. Now let's talk about energy access, the other aspect of energy security. There are various modes of energy access programs. I'd like to call them energy democracy programs in our systems today. There is the net metering program, one of my favorites, and I'll talk about this more later. There's the retail competition and open access program and retail aggregation as well. We've talked about, Ben mentioned earlier, the green energy auction program, which the DOE is also pursuing for round 2 for this year. Then those that want to source directly from green energy suppliers, from RE suppliers, can also avail of what we call the green energy auction program. This is like retail competition, but purely for retail, purely for RE suppliers. Last year in October, at the ERC, we also issued the rules for distributed energy resources. This is sort of the net metering program, but with higher capacity. So not limited to 100 kilowatts anymore, but 1 megawatt, with the authority to sell up to 30% of their excess capacity to the grid or to the distribution utility where they are connected. We continue to also support the DOE in the competitive selection process for bilateral contracting for captive customers. And as you know, there's already the microgrid law that's also passed in the Philippines to promote rural electrification using hybrid or RE facilities in our islands or unelectrified areas. So all these programs are in various stages of implementation. The net metering program, if I may zero in on that one, is one that really is a program that really deserves its own campaign. And at the ERC, we're really campaigning very hard for the promotion of the net metering program. We have identified champions, we call them champions, to pave the way, give more confidence to others who are still quite hesitant or quite fearful of this program. For national agencies, the Commission on Audit, no less than the Commission on Audit, has actually enrolled in this program. Their entire complex in Quezon City is under now the net metering program, and they can vouch for the benefits of this program for their own agency. So we're very confident that with the COA, the Commission on Audit, who is for most government agencies very afraid to procure services or new ideas because the Commission on Audit might disapprove them. the Commission on Audit has actually engaged in the net metering program. So maybe we can find some confidence in there. We've also identified some local government units that can be the LGU champions, so that we're hopeful that if there are these champions, then they can encourage more of similarly placed end users to engage in the program. But why are we doing all these things? Because we realize that while today there are there are a lot of areas in the Philippines that still operate under the traditional power system, a highly centralized, unidirectional power system. There are also areas in the Philippines that are already, and this is called future, but I think more being part of the present today. There are those, and we are moving towards this future energy system of no longer unidirectional, but multi-directional movement of electrons, not only electrons, but finances as well. And it's more decentralized than highly centralized system. So our regulations that were formulated under this system may not apply for this system. And that's the preparation that we are doing at the Energy Regulatory Commission. We are already reviewing our regulations to make sure that we don't stand in the way of progress, that we facilitate progress. And the sooner we get to this type of system, ensuring that we are also complying with the mandates of least cost pricing and consumer protection, then we will all be better for it. We are coming up with regulations covering these emerging technologies in the country. These are all in the works, and we are also thinking about different ways of doing things. For example, rather than doing our usual posting of drafts and then engaging in public consultations, maybe we can do regulatory sandboxes and co-creating rules with stakeholders. That's one area of innovation also in terms of regulation that we are looking at.